Hi, welcome back to a little bit of Calm and Crazy. My name is Jennifer, and today I am so excited to be able to share with you my first for 2019 Dollar Tree Halloween DIY projects. I've seen a few Halloween projects floating around that I have just fallen in love with, and I had to get on board and create a few of my own. I hope that you love these as much as I do. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope you will take a moment and introduce yourself and say hello in the comments below. And if you are returning, thank you so much. If you don't know it, this is the very first video that I am posting since I hit 50,000 subscribers, and I owe it all to you. I am so appreciative of each one of you. Thank you for making this such a fun journey for me. I love being able to share with you all the different things that I create. And if you have not hit subscribe, but you enjoy budget decor, DIY, Dollar Tree, make sure that you do so you don't miss any of my future uploads. If you don't know it, you can find me on Instagram. It is a little bit of Calm and Crazy over there, just like it is here. On Instagram, I love sharing with you a little bit more of my personal life, as well as some short little videos that I don't share over here. And if that interests you, I would love to see you over there as well. And without me gabbing on anymore, let's go ahead and get into today's projects. For my first project, I am using two of these shadow boxes, both in black. It doesn't really matter what's on the inside. And if they're not in black, I would suggest that you go ahead and paint them black. I think the black would look best for what the project will be in the end. I also have a couple pieces of scrapbook paper that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. I always get these for $1, as well as these lowercase poster stickers that also come from Dollar Tree. I do include a complete supply list for you in the description box just to keep things super easy for you, so if you miss anything here, you can always check down there. To start off, I am measuring my shadow box so that I know exactly what size of a box that I have. Now, using the same ruler, a pencil, and some foam board, I am measuring it out onto the foam board so that I can cut out a piece of foam board that will fit exactly into the box. I will actually create two squares so that I will have a piece of foam board that will fit into each of the two boxes that I have. The metal ruler that I am using actually does come from the Dollar Tree. It was one of the things they put out with their school supplies. I am loving using this. This is perfect to use along with my craft knife. It just makes it really easy. And I always get questions about my craft knife too. This is actually a Fiskars craft knife. I love that I'm able to put my finger through it. It just helps me to control it better. I always leave the link in the description box if you're interested in looking at that. So I have my first square, and here you can see that it is not quite fitting exactly the way I wanted it. I erred on the side of a little too big over erring on the side of too small. So once I figured that out, then I could just trim off the tiniest bit, and that would be my little tip for you, is to go a little bit too big and not too small at first, and you can just trim off a tiny bit. Again, just using your ruler and your craft knife. Now with the second piece of foam board, I just used the first piece of foam board as my guide. I traced around it, and then using my ruler and my craft knife again, I cut out my square and I made sure that it fit inside of my shadow box. Now that my foam board is ready, it's time to take some Mod Podge and attach my scrapbook paper to my foam board. So all I need to do is get a thin layer onto the foam board, and then I place it onto the scrapbook paper. As you can see, I'm just placing it at the very corner of the scrapbook paper. I don't want to waste my paper. I want to be able to use it later on in a different project. And then once the Mod Podge is completely set up and dried, I just go in with a pair of scissors and I trim it out. I also go in and I lift up any of the corners where maybe the scrapbook paper wasn't attached to the foam board and add a little extra Mod Podge just to make sure that my scrapbook paper is nice and adhered all the way around the foam board, just to keep it extra secure. With the polka dotted paper, I went ahead and I spelled out the word eek, and then on the black and white stripe paper, I wanted to spell out the word boo. I traditionally like to start in the middle because then I can get my middle placement, and then I will do the outside letters just so that I have a little bit more of a balance. I find that the easiest way. Now with both of these, because even the dots line up as well as the lines line up, I use that to help me stay straight. And so I didn't do my typical ruler trick that if you've been around, you have seen me do before. So it made it rather easy just to do it this way.
because I'm doing sticker onto paper, I felt like the sticker stuck well enough. I didn't need to put any Mod Podge or anything on top. I'm just sticking the foam board straight inside, and then I can pop these out and use these shadow boxes at another time. And I just think that this is super cute. I did feel like the Eek and the Boo needed to pop just a little bit more than what they were popping. So I'm going in with a white gel pen and then just tracing over them so that on some of those darker colors like the orange and the black, you can really see that white gel pen pop through. And I think that was the perfect added touch for both of these, and now you really get to see it a whole lot better. I love these. They're super simple and easy to change up, and I don't feel like I really wasted anything because I love these shadow boxes and I definitely want to be able to use them in the future for other things as well. For my next project, I'm creating a garland using both the pumpkin and the ghost ornaments from Dollar Tree. I chose the pumpkin over the jack-o'-lantern, but Dollar Tree does have jack-o'-lantern ornaments if you would rather use those instead. I am also using Waverly's chalk paint in white, but you could use just a white acrylic paint. I am also using some orange acrylic paint, which, if you can see, has been well loved by my daughter. I am placing both paints into these little glass bowls, which do come from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just mixing them with some water to create more of a stain and just thin out the paint some. Using a brush that's not really dense to go in and paint these, the Dollar Tree 1-inch brush is actually what I will be using when I get to the ghost, and if I had another one, I would have used that on the pumpkins as well. I'm starting with my test pumpkin to see if I like it. And as I see here, it's a little thicker than I want, so I'm going to go ahead and add just a tiny bit more water and mix that up. Now, I will tell you, it does get pretty juicy and pretty wet, so make sure that you have something around. You might want to soak up a little extra of that moisture, and then you can go in. You can also go in with like a paper towel and brush it on and then wipe it off just like you would a stain with any of the extra that you have. But this is definitely the coloring that I want. I can still see that wood poking through, and that was exactly what I was going for. I didn't want it to be opaque at all. Without any waiting, I went ahead and I painted the back side as well. I wanted to make sure both sides were done, and just cranking it out. I am going in with a paper towel and I'm wiping off any of the excess, and that helps to get any of that true moisture off, and then I can see if I really want to add any more or not, or if I'm happy with the saturation of color that I have. I do the exact same thing with a ghost, but just using the white paint instead. Once everything is dried, I am going in with Waverly's Wax and Antique. And I'm doing the same thing that I did with the orange and the white. I'm taking a little bit of the Wax and Antique and I'm mixing it with a little bit of water and thinning it out. I first started with a small paintbrush and I went around the ghost, both their eyes and their mouth, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of depth in those areas and just kind of patted, not being too particular. It's kind of thin, and I just wanted to make sure that I deepened up those areas. Once I had done that to all of the ghost on both eyes as well as the mouth, I went in again with not a firm brush at all, super just loose brush, and slightly after I had taken off, I'm trying to just tell you ever so slightly, I went in on the first I did on the pumpkins. I just kind of did a light brushing just to deepen it up, and my daughter about freaked out. She thought I was going to ruin these, and maybe you're thinking the same thing. Maybe you like it just like this and you think I should have left them alone, but I really wanted to give them just a little bit more of an aged look, and I love how this looks. It turned out exactly the way I wanted. That's the great thing about crafts, is that you get to create it the way that you want it. So if you don't like this step, you just leave it out. I did want my pumpkins and ghost to coordinate, so I did the exact same thing with the ghost, but the only thing that I did differently is once I went over all of the ghost, I did go back in with the brush and the wax, and I defined the edges of the ghost just to deepen up the edges a little bit more. I did this by just carefully pouncing the brush along the edges all the way around the ghost. The packets of ornaments did come with these pre-cut pieces of twine, so I'm taking these and just looping them through their little holes on the top and then tying them into this little loop knot. I'm trying to make sure that all of my knots are in about the same placing so that when I hang them on their twine at the end, they all hang at the same distance from that twine, if that makes sense. So I'm using the very first knot that I tied to help me tie the next few knots. I hope that makes sense by you being able to see what it is that I'm doing, because apparently I'm not speaking it very well. But I wanted all my knots to be at the same length. Once I had all my knots tied, I did go in with my scissors and I cut off a little bit of the extra twine and just snip that right off. Now you will notice that one of the ghosts is missing, and I will be using that in my very last project. To create the garland, I'm using some twine from the Dollar Tree and I'm just lacing it through the pumpkins and the ghost. Like I mentioned before, I am only using 4 of the ghost, so I have a total of 9 pieces that I'm lacing through. I love to do things in odd numbers, so I have a total of 9 here. I am beginning with a pumpkin and ending with a pumpkin so that my pumpkin is what is grounding my garland. That is just a personal preference, but that's what I liked. I felt like that just really pulled everything all together, and I'm just kind of giving you what I'm liking. Of course, you can do whatever it is that you like. I am showing you how I'm hanging this on my mantle, but of course you can hang this anywhere. I love to hang garland all over my house. I hang it on picture frames, on mirrors. Now you can do just this banner, or if you want to do the double banner like I did, let me go ahead and show you how I did the second part. So I got this old book. This is from a thrift store. If you have an old book, that is great. Otherwise, you can grab one from the Dollar Tree. I'm using a metal ruler from Dollar Tree as well as my craft knife. Now I do like that these pages are yellowed. I think that makes the difference in this project. I'm just taking the ruler and helping me to just cut the pages closest to the seam as possible. Now I did not press very hard, so I only got a couple pages with that cut, but depending on how much pressure you give onto your craft knife, you can get several pages at one time, and it's a pretty quick process to go through. Now some of you might be freaking out that I'm cutting a book. I'm not cutting a classic, I promise you. And if this really does bother you, you can print off pages off of your computer, or you can even buy some scrapbook paper at like Hobby Lobby or something instead, and you would not have to do this. But this is a book that would just go to waste, and so this is me actually using it and recycling it. Once I have cut my pages, now I'm trimming them to be 4 by 6. I'm doing that with all of my pages. I'm cut out enough to do Halloween as well as enough to do my final project, which you will see in just a little bit. Once all your pages are trimmed to 4 by 6, I wanted to go ahead and add a ducktail to all of my pages, or a little V. So I'm measuring into the center wherever I want my V to go, and then I'm measuring from that center point to the corners. This is to give me the guide so that I will know where to cut. So once I have that guide, I go in again with my metal ruler and my craft knife, and I use that to help me, or to actually cut the pages. Now all of my pages are stacked together and I'm cutting them all at one time. I found that to just be a faster process. Once I have all of my pages cut, then I can go ahead and move on to the next step. I'm just taking a hole punch and I'm hole punching 2 holes at the top of the paper, just eyeballing it, using the lines of the words to help me get those even. Now it's time for me to take the black poster sticker letters and spell out the word Halloween, 1 letter per page. What makes it so nice is that I am just using the sentences as lines in order to help keep my letters straight. I'm also using H to help me know how to place all the rest of my letters so that all my letters will line up. And once I have all of my letters on all of the pages, I then can go in with my twine and I can thread it through. Just be a little bit careful as you're threading it through so that you're not ripping your paper, and just taking your time as you are lacing your twine through. Now as you can see, I am going up through the left-hand side and then down through the right-hand side, and that is so that you can see the twine on the front of each page. I did want to make sure that you could see that. I also like that I did it this way so that once you have hung up your banner, if you need to adjust your letters in any way to make it more balanced onto your twine, you can still do that and create the spacing that you need with each piece of paper and between the ends of your twine as you have it hung up. I hope that makes some sense. I don't really like to have my banners to be fixed. I like them to be able to be moved depending on where it is that you're hanging them. That's just a personal preference. Again, I really do love how these turned out. I think that they are just not in your face screaming Halloween as far as like colors go, but of course it does say Halloween, so maybe a little bit screaming. But I still really love them, and I can't wait to pull them out when I really do decorate for Halloween, because even now is a little bit too early even for me. For the last project, I am using these Dollar Tree faux wood 4x6 frames, some of the wood sticker pumpkins, and some leftovers from my previous project, a couple pages of the book, as well as a ghost. So all I'm going to do is open up each of the frames and reinsert things. So I'm starting off actually by placing the page of the book in first. Then I'm putting the glass back in because it does add the weight that I want. Without the glass, you kind of lose that weight. And then I'm putting the backing back in and closing up the frame. I'm doing that to both of the frames. Again, it's the book, then the glass, then the backing. So to decorate these, I just wanted to place the ghost on one of them and pumpkins on the other, and I'm just using some hot glue in order to secure these down. So it just takes a little bit of hot glue in order to keep the ghost onto the paper, so I'm just placing him right into the center. Now I can use this frame later because I am just hot gluing him straight onto the paper. I will do the same thing with the pumpkins. So I'm adding a little bit more hot glue onto this pumpkin because he's actually going to be my stable pumpkin onto the paper. And then when I'm hot gluing the second pumpkin on there, I'm actually only going to place the hot glue onto the first pumpkin because I don't want to hot glue anything onto the frame in case I would like to use it again later on for something else. And I'm going to do the same thing with my little pumpkin. I'm only going to hot glue it onto that third pumpkin. So just added a little bit of hot glue there and added that to that third pumpkin in order to make sure that it was nice and secure. And there you have it, a super easy project, two projects actually. I really love how they both turned out, and of course the pumpkin one would be great for Thanksgiving and fall as well, not just for Halloween, but because it was part of my Halloween, I definitely had to include it. I hope that you have enjoyed all of these projects today, and as always, I do love to hear which one is your favorite and if you plan on recreating any of them. So let me know that in the comments below. If you have not hit that subscribe button and you enjoy budget decor and DIYs, I would love for you to join me on this journey. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to come and watch my video. I absolutely do appreciate it, and I am so grateful for each and every one of you, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!